defense has encouraged you to speculate in this case. The law does not allow that. I want to draw your attention to page 4 of your jury instructions. You don't have to pick them up. Page 4, middle of the page. Whenever the words reasonable doubt are used, you must consider the following. A reasonable doubt is not a mere possible doubt. Could it be? Not good enough. A speculative doubt. Speculation. We don't have that in the courtroom. We don't have that in the jury deliberation room. Imaginary or forced doubt. Not reasonable. Such a doubt must not influence you to return a verdict of not guilty if you have an abiding conviction of guilt. When you're back there and you're thinking about what Mr. Rashbaum would have said, he would have said puzzle pieces. First puzzle piece, the motive doesn't fit because he had a great life and he wouldn't have wanted to ruin his life. The problem with that argument is arrogance. This was not an issue for him because he wasn't going to get caught, because he was untouchable. They said relocation had no impact on Charlie Adelson, and that they proved Wendy's innocence in their questioning of her. Why are they working so hard to convince you Wendy is innocent? Does it matter? Y'all aren't being asked to decide anything about Wendy Adelson. There's nothing on that verdict form about Wendy Adelson. Did she corroborate the defense theory in this case? Wendy Adelson testified she didn't know anything about this supposed extortion of her brother, even though she moved there the day this happened. She didn't know in 14, she didn't know in 15, and she didn't know until it was announced in opening statements in this courtroom. I asked her about it, and she said, quote, "Well, I learned that someone made that argument. I don't know whether it's true or not. I don't know whether it's true or not." Even his own sister doesn't believe this load he's trying to sell y'all. Garcia wanted to kill the defendant so he wouldn't have done a hit on his behalf. And for that they refer to the jet ski incident. They couldn't be in a conspiracy together because they hated each other. Well, that was part of the purpose of the walling off. The whole theory of this defense is that this defendant was so fearful of Sigfredo Garcia that he couldn't do the normal thing. He couldn't report this. But he continued to date Catherine Magbanua, Garcia's baby mama, after all this. After July 1, when they had this incident in the roadway. After the extortion. And even after that, he continues to send love notes to Sigfredo Garcia's woman. Even after the two of them get back together, he's still sending those notes because he's so arrogant. Defense has told you that the defendant made the joke about the TV being cheaper than Hitman to people he hardly knew. Who are those people? The only person that testified in this courtroom that they had heard that joke was Wendy Adelson. Lacasse was asked. The lawyer said they said it, and you guys have to refer to your notes and your own memories about what the evidence showed. But Lacasse was asked, did he say the joke at the dinner that y'all went to with Wendy and Garcia and Catherine Magbanua? I'm sorry, Wendy and Charlie and Catherine Magbanua. And he says, no. He does not recall that joke being made, and he thinks he would have recalled it had it been made. So there is no evidence in this trial that the defendant told that joke to people he hardly knew. If this was a murder for hire, it should have been paid in advance. Murder for hires always get paid in advance. That's what Pat Sanford said. That's not what he said. What Pat Sanford said is the arrests have been made close in time after the other murder for hire cases have worked. So there's no payment over time, gifts and stuff like that. Here, the investigation took years for the defendant to have the opportunity to try to keep her happy, to try to provide these gifts. Not only to her, but to Sigfredo Garcia. A gift card for a vacation on your extortion victim. Offered, not asked for, not demanded, offered. Offered to the extortionist. The defense talked about Catherine McBanois. He hates when people lie, and she's a liar, and she lied to you. Well, Mr. Rashwan's opinion about the witnesses, he told you which ones were good, which ones were lying, which ones were truthful, which ones were the best ones, which ones meant nothing. You guys decide that stuff. Okay? What we say is not evidence. Catherine McBanois is a liar, though. I mean, she said other stuff, and now she's saying this. You guys have to consider that. That's a no-brainer. She has played every card she had, and this is the last stop for her. I agree with that. You guys agreed at jury selection that you would keep an open mind to that type of evidence, and that's all I ask you to do. Does it fit with the other evidence in the case? Because her last testimony sure didn't. Nobody has stronger feelings about Catherine McBanois than the ones sitting on this side. Would I ask you to base this defendant's freedom on the word of Catherine McBanois? That's what they said I'm doing. And I would never do that. Never. Does it fit with the other evidence in the case? That's what I'm asking you to consider. I didn't ask her about Dolce Vita. She verified the transcript. She said the words that scrolled when y'all watched it were the words that were said. The state has a doubt. What if we do? It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter what the lawyers think. Doesn't matter. Do you have a doubt? Doesn't matter what I think. Doesn't matter what Mr. Rashbaum thinks. Regarding the defendant's demeanor in 2014, the defense said there was nobody that said anything about his demeanor. We only asked about, was he going crazy after the bump? And the answer was yes. That's not true. Ryan Fitzpatrick, who was his best friend in 2014, they didn't fall out until 2015, reported no change in his behavior. I said, was his behavior weird like that before the bump? No, not weird. That was his quote. He was normal until the bump, and then he was agitated, angry, freaked out, tense, stressed, whatever. Why didn't I play all of the calls? Did y'all get enough of the calls? I was trying to pick the parts that I think are important. They're in evidence. Feel free to listen to them. I do not want you to think I was trying to hide anything from you. Those are in evidence. And you will have an opportunity to review anything you want when you're back there with the recording equipment, headphones, and all that will be provided to you. The defense says in calls A, B, and C, if you did a murder with someone, wouldn't it be the first thing on your mind to report? Well, maybe, but you're probably not like Charlie Adelson. You're probably not untouchable. Charlie Adelson asks the description on the wire, tell me about this guy, what's the timing, what was he wearing a disguise? How do those questions, the defense is offering that as evidence that he was trying to deduce whether this blackmailer was the same as the prior blackmailer, but he never saw the prior blackmailer. He only saw Catherine McBanois. So how does asking if the guy that approached his mother was wearing a disguise tend to prove his innocence or tend to prove his extortion theory? The guy that extorted him wasn't wearing a floppy hat and an Abe Lincoln beard. It was Sigfredo Garcia. It was Catherine McBanois. Sigfredo Garcia, the first extortionist, didn't give him 48 hours to pay. He put him on a payment plan. He paid over years. The defendant, hoping it's the police, and saying, quote, these people only know part of the story, or they think they know part of the story. The defense picks that out and says, oh, there he is talking about the first extortion. Or is he saying, why did they go to my mom instead of me? I'm the one that has a connection to you. I'm the one that, I think what he says is, I'm the one that has a relationship to you. Why didn't they come to the one that's involved? I mean, I'm not involved. That's what he says. Why didn't they come to the one that was involved in this? That's what he's trying to figure out about why they went to his mom and not him. Can't even read my own writing here. Oh, the PowerPoint with Wendy. Okay, the dots on the cell phone PowerPoints do not indicate where the person was. They indicate the cell tower that was servicing the person's phone at that time. So they're going to be somewhere around there. And the testimony was that Wendy's dot at 12:30 could be consistent. He can't say where she was. Could be consistent with her being at Trescott, and we know she went to Trescott because Officer Brennan observed her there. So I'm not desperately trying to pound a puzzle piece into y'all that Wendy made the call to say it's done. I don't know that. I can't prove that. If that information was conveyed, I don't know how it got conveyed. All right, Lacoste. They really need y'all to discount the testimony of Jeffrey Lacoste, right? Because of that statement that Wendy made to him just before the murder, that, all kidding aside, her brother really had looked into hiring a hitman to kill Dan Markell. And the defense says, you can't believe him, he's a jilted lover. And the evidence definitely showed that he was heartbroken over Wendy Adelson. But unfortunately for the defense, his brain was working just fine. And he testified about Charlie Adelson bragging in the hot tub about connections to a Cuban criminal element. The defense says, oh, they're not Cuban, that's not in evidence. They're of Hispanic descent, and he reported that to law enforcement, that that's what Charlie said. Lacoste doesn't know if they're Cuban or something else. Lacoste said he bragged in the hot tub about having connections to a Cuban criminal element, and when Lacoste reported that information, the killers had not been identified, so he had no way of knowing if they were Cuban or of Hispanic descent. That's the importance of that. Lacoste says Wendy reported the celebration dinner, same thing. He comes in and tells the cops, look, she reported a celebration dinner to me where she vomited on the table. An inspection of the records proves there was a dinner and she did vomit. But they want you to believe that Lacoste is just lying about the celebration part? The Halloween text. They've asked you to look at their piece of evidence that talks about when Garcia learned about the existence of Charlie. That doesn't shed any light on what we're saying occurred on Halloween. On Halloween, Charlie, this defendant, approached Catherine Magbanua about, do you know anyone that can rough him up? Okay, we're not alleging that she called Garcia that day and said, hey, can you come kill somebody? That was just the first inquiry into a plan that developed over time between Charles Adelson and Catherine Magbanua. All right, the defense mentioned Erica, and I'm almost done. Erica Johnson and her testimony, that didn't mean anything. Why did they call them? What about that recorded call between the defendant and Erica? Why does he tell her not to talk to the police? What about June Mchinda? Why does he tell her not to talk to the police? They don't know about the first layer of extortion. They can't reveal the first layer of extortion that will reveal the second layer of extortion that will expose him to the Latin kings. Why is he telling them not to talk to the cops? defendant's testimony. They say it's reasonable that he didn't go to the police with the truth because he had just seen what these people were capable of. They killed Dan Markell. He was in fear. Okay, is that consistent with what you know about him? I refer you back to the wires and everything you know about him. But also, why then not come forward with this story when the bad guys were arrested and the danger was eliminated? Why not come forward when Catherine McVanoa was arrested and he believed her to be innocent? For 3 years she awaited trial while this man thought she had nothing to do with it, according to him. Yet he did not come forward with this story. Why not come forward after her conviction? All the bad guys have been arrested and convicted. Danger eliminated. Come tell the truth. He doesn't do it. What about after his own arrest? He doesn't come forward then. We learn it in this courtroom in opening statement. Defense says the defendant freaked out in the car before Dolce Vita. Right? You have to watch Dolce again and see if you think he was freaking out or if he was in control of that situation. He was the one giving orders in that situation. I'll go back to the players in this case being smart. I mean, the defendant is smart. And they had over a year to carefully plan this murder with the goal of not getting caught. And he's had 7 years to think about his defense in this case since the case first broke. And he does think he's untouchable. Don't guess. Don't assume. Look at the evidence. It will tell you everything you need to know. But don't let the way the defendant thought he would get away with this be the reason he gets away with it. As long as you keep your mouth shut, you can get away with murder. Well, fortunately for us, the defendant didn't take his own advice. He did take the witness stand. He did offer statements, and you are able to assess his credibility as part of your determination of this case. Only one of us is putting on a magic show. It's up to y'all to figure out which one it is, right? We just hope and trust that you all have the common sense and the courage to see this case for what it is, to cut through all the stuff that the lawyers say and get to the meat of it and render a verdict that does justice for Dan Markell. And that is a verdict of guilty as charged. Thank you.